This right here is the EAA Witness P-Carry. This is a 10mm compact gun. This guy has a 3.4-inch barrel, pretty small, but it's a relatively pretty compact package, comparable to like a Glock 19 or even one of the Beretta PX4 Storm, something like that. If you look at it, it kind of has some CZ-esque lines to it. It's got that big old dust cover right up front, and this entire lower frame is all polymer. You don't have any extra grip options. This is what you get. It does not have a decocker. This particular model has a rear thumb safety right here. Red is fire, up is safe. What's interesting about this is you can actually actuate the safety or engage the safety with the hammer down. So hammer up, hammer down, whatever you want to call it. If you want to completely prevent yourself from pulling the trigger, you can actually engage that safety. Trigger itself isn't that bad, and I have not even fired this yet, so we're going to really judge a trigger once I fire it. So we're going to take it back to my studio. We're actually going to put a trigger weight gauge on it to see what this trigger pull really is. The double action trigger pull is relatively heavy, but not bad. It's actually very smooth. You don't feel any grinding or grittiness, which is good. Otherwise, single action trigger pull does have a very light feel to it. The single action trigger pull is not too bad at all. So you have a little take up right here, and then that's it. The take up is pretty much right to the wall. And then let's check that reset as well. Reset right there. Very short trigger pull and very crispy trigger pull as well. So not too bad. I do have one complaint about this before we even fire it for the first time, and that's going to be the serrations of this on the slide and the very thin profile of the slide. Obviously, CZs have a very thin slide. Typically, at least what is it? Like my SP01 Shadow or even the CZ Shadow 2 have very thin slides, very low profile slides. The problem is that gives you a lot less surface to be able to grab the slide by. So you have your rear serrations. They're fine if the slide was a little thicker, but since this slide is such a low profile slide, you don't have a whole lot of room to grab. That's it. And you can see the width of my finger is the width of the slide back here. So when you're trying to grab it, your hand just sort of slides off it. And the springs of a 10mm are a little more stout than your typical 9mm, something like that. I found the easiest way for me to rack this slide back is just to kind of C-clamp it with my hand, thumb and index finger on the back, and just pull. And it's not too bad, but if you get like a coat of oil or something on it, it can get kind of slippery. Anyways, enough blabbering about it. Let's shoot the thing. So here we have it, first magazine through the EAA Witness P10 Carry. Let's see how it feels. It's spicy, but it's not that bad. I'm gonna go for headshots. Spicy, but it's not that bad. For headshots. We do have a failure to feed right here, and it looks like something about the magazine, the way it's popping it up. Could be the ramp, I'm not too sure yet. We'll look back on the footage after and see. Anyways, let's finish off these last two rounds. Man, that is a spicy gun, but it's not that bad. Considering the size of the round that you're shooting, not too horrible. So what I'm kind of noticing is it seems like maybe the recoil spring actually needs to be a little more stout, a little stronger. Because it's kind of having trouble cycling sometimes with a different round, and I wonder if that's not just that recoil spring needs a little assistance. But I'm going to do a couple more mags to this thing, and let's see if we can get it to cycle better. That was all 14. Not bad, still cycled. Another 14 right here. So jammed to number 12, little slap forward. That's it, so 13. Jammed on the 13th round, same issue, just didn't quite feed it in. This could be a break-in thing too, so I'm gonna go ahead and do some more magazines. Because I mean, it's not like 10 mil is expensive or anything right now. Before we address the obvious elephant in the room, which is the failure to feed. Now, I did tell you guys I was going to do a trigger weight test. So let's go ahead and do a trigger weight test. And yes, it is clear. There I am. Hello. Okay, we are zeroed out. Single action trigger pull. 3.13 pounds, and it does feel very light. 3.14 pounds. So you got about a 10-pound double action trigger, but a 3-pound single action trigger. That's pretty impressive. And I like I said before, that trigger is actually very nice, minus the curved aspect of it, which drives me insane. So I'm not a huge fan of curved triggers. And I mean, especially like really drastically curved triggers like this. I just don't like them. I don't like the feeling of the trigger wrapping my finger. In fact, so I fired a bunch of guns today just to get a lot of content. And as you can see, this is my trigger finger. I fired about 130 rounds of 10 millimeter and I got a blister on my finger. My finger right there, the blister is smushed up. So it's this trigger that caused the blistering of my finger. So again, before we address the failure to feed, look at the little frame pin right there. So as I was firing it, this was walking out to the left. So after about 130 rounds, the pin was walking on it. One thing I didn't mention before, this gun belongs to my father. He just recently purchased it. He did tell me about the issues, the feeding issues that it has. It got really frustrating towards the end with shooting this. This gun fires very nicely. It's actually a very smooth shooter. For the powerful 10 millimeter round that it fires, it doesn't snap on you too hard. The trigger slaps you a bit, but the physical gun isn't too bad. Now, if you look at it, it has a really low bore axis. You can see how low that barrel is. That low bore axis really helps with recoil mitigation. A firearm with a higher bore axis is going to put more pressure on recoil towards the top of the gun. What that means is when you're firing it, it's going to have the tendency to want to flip up more. Now this gun, when you fire it, has more of a tendency just to want to push straight back on you, which is nice. It helps you keep you on target. Again, it's a powerful round, so it still kind of flips up a lot too, but it's not as bad. It's really not bad. I think the issue is the recoil spring. So after I went shooting today with the fellas, I went home and I did a bunch of research on this gun in specific, especially the feeding issues, and some other people were talking about having the same issues. They said it could be related to certain polishing on the breech face, extractor, stuff like that. However, one thing that they mentioned was this firearm, this compact 10 millimeter firearm uses the same recoil spring as the 9 millimeter. Slide isn't actually all that difficult to pull back. So this thing ejects casings 15 to 20 feet away. And I think what we need is a heavier recoil spring. And another reason why I say that is because when I was chambering around, a lot of times they just sort of like slowly go into battery, like it's just taking its time to go into battery. Not that snap. When you slingshot the slide, you want that thing to snap into battery, right? This thing wasn't doing that. And there's even times where I'm firing it and then I can feel the slide rolling back and then chambering and then get snagged about right here because obviously it wasn't feeding around. That's a big issue. So I think if I order a stronger recoil spring for this thing, I think that'll help. Especially because a lot of the issues I was having, I was able to actually fix it just by smacking the back of the slide forward. So that's that. So the two issues, obviously, are feeding issues and then this pin in back walking out. All other pins seem to be in place and doing just fine. The grip actually feels really good. It's a very comfortable firearm. And the low profile slide, I would like a little more. I would like it if the serrations were a little more aggressive on top as well to accommodate for the really thin slide. Other than that, very comfortable firearm. Recoil mitigation is really good on this thing too. I don't know if they make trigger upgrades for these, but I would love to have just a straight trigger, you know, like Apex style straight trigger, because I hate this curved trigger right here. Accuracy seemed just fine. I was firing at a cardboard target, silhouette target. Now, that being said, I started focusing more on the issues of the gun and less on accuracy as I was experiencing them. Overall, I do actually really like this gun. I just want to figure out how I can make it run right, because it's a cool gun. I love the size, I love how it's compact, and I love the extremely powerful round that it fires. As people say, 10mm is the best millimeter, right? Ammunition's a bit expensive. It's not horrible, but I've seen it for like 60 cents a round right now for a good deal. So other than that though, pretty cool gun. It's got some issues and some things we should iron out, but everything that I've experienced on this firearm, I think we can fix and get running properly. So I'm gonna see what I can do to order a new spring for this, something heavier, something stiffer, and then I'm going to tap this pin back in, and then I'm gonna look into trigger upgrades to see if we can swap this thing out for a better trigger, because did I mention I hate curved triggers? Kind of a cool gun and I really like it, so I'm gonna hold on to it for a little bit and do some more rounds, and I'm gonna do another follow-up video when I fix the issue or figure out exactly what that issue is. I will do another quick video and let you guys know what it was. Thank you all so much for watching. That's all I have for you guys. Hope you guys like this video. I'll see ya.